Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
They didn't make him the arsehole. They didn't make it simple as like, oh, he's now famous, he doesn't want to be with her. And I thought it was such a nice thing that it was like he was still in a way trying to hang on to the past and take her with him when she didn't want to go. Yeah. She just didn't want it.
And that's great that she was like, actually, I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I'm happy here.
I like that as a female character.
Yeah.
That was the way they took it as well.
Yeah. Welcome one, welcome all to episode 107 of the Flixwatcher podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. I'm here joined by Edith.
Hi, and hi Jasper.
Hello, I don't know who Jasper is, but hello Jasper.
And that's Cariad.
Yes, hello.
And as always, with Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about the film Don't Think Twice.
Come find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. Visit the website flixwatcher.tv for full listings, and don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us an awesome review.
And as we always say, guys, all the films were available on Netflix at the time of recording. There is going to be bad language, there's going to be spoilers, and we hope you enjoy it. See you later.
Hello, film fans. Welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. Joining us today, we have Cariad and Edith. If you would like to say hello to our listeners and tell them about the work that you do.
You go first.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Cariad. I am a comedian and actor and podcaster, and I host a show called Griefcast where I interview comedians about their experiences of death and grief. And as I say every time, it's cheerier than it sounds.
It is cheerier than it sounds. And
it's
also,
than it sounds.
You haven't sold it that well because it's like the biggest podcast ever. Winning.
Oh, yeah, it's
like,
bigger.
Just swept the boards.
It's the biggest podcast ever made, ever. Don't tell no such things to fish. They'll be quite upset.
Or
I think
cereal.
that might be. Or yeah, my dad made one. I think they're quite big. It's won awards. It's an award-winning podcast.
Award-winning podcast.
Yes,
which is a great thing to say.
It's very nice, very chuffed. But yeah, I interview comedians and all sorts of people about death and grief, and we just talk about it. And it is not as depressing as it sounds. It's quite fun and uplifting, hopefully.
It is. I've listened to a lot of the episodes, many of the episodes.
I really wanted you to be like, listen to one. I wasn't sad.
Yeah,
it was all right.
One was enough.
One was enough. What? God, too much. Can't face twice. Anyway.
How would you actually ask people to come on your
It's awkward.
recruit people?
Yeah, it's awkward. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's tricky because what happens, obviously lots of comedians know each other, and what happens is they go, oh, do you know Bob? His mum just died. And you're like, what? And they go, do you think he'd want to come on? You're like, probably not. His mum's just died. Like, well, I'll email him. You're like, no, please don't do that, saying like I'm hassling. So what's quite nice now is because of the success, I tend to have people approach me.
Great.
So that's like much easier because they go, oh, you know, hi Karen, I actually have a story. And I'm like, brilliant.
Yeah.
I didn't have to sort of be like, oh God, if you mention it, should I? So yeah, it's a bit tricky because you don't want to upset. But if people talk about it, if people have been talking about it in other mediums, then I don't mind writing an email because I feel like, well, you're talking about it.
We're past the 6 month thing. It's going to be fine
yeah,
now.
exactly. You should be fine. I mean, Jesus Christ, you wrote a book about it. Come on. You should be fine to talk about it. But yeah, it's tricky because some people do not want to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, so, which is totally fair enough. It's not like, what's wrong with you? So you have to sort of broach it. It was harder when I first started. Adam Buxton was one of the first people I approached, and I sort of knew him, but not very well. But he'd talked about his dad on his podcast.
Yeah.
So I wrote him an email going, you know, my dad died. I'm going to do this podcast. Like, I'd love to talk to you about it. And he just wrote, he was like, yeah, are you like professionally trained? I was like, no, I'm not in any way. We just have a chat. And he was like, oh, okay. So luckily he was very kind and came and spoke to me. But yeah, he'd already been talking about it, so I didn't feel like a kind of, you know, ambulance chaser.
Yeah.
That's what you do worry about. But people do like to text me when they
Hear
they
someone's
hear
died.
something's happened. Yeah, which is like, it doesn't work like that. I can't just swan up to someone I don't know and be like, oh, hey.
And wider scale than comedians as well, in terms of, or just comedians?
Do you mean it's people I speak to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have widened it, because...
There's only so many comedians in the world.
There's only so many comedians who've got a good death story, you know, we run out.
Do you vet them and say, it's not that interesting?
I don't. I should.
Can you answer a quick questionnaire on death for me, please?
Yeah.
If you answered mostly A's, yes, you can come on.
But what's so weird is some people they'll tell you their story and it's like, you know, perhaps it was their mum or their dad and they died at home and they were very old, and they'll say to you, oh, it's not very interesting. But then it is absolutely fascinating, all the stuff around it. It doesn't have to be like traumatic.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting. There's always a story. But yeah, I mainly speak to comedians, but I do also speak to sort of writers and improvisers and producers, people who work, I would say, use humour to make their money. So that's more what I'm interested in. Don't necessarily have to be a stand-up, because I'm not a traditional stand-up. So I'd hate it just to be stand-up.
Yeah.
And you do get the old complaint, the old stand-up complaint, because people, fans of podcasts, like to complain that they hear the same people. Have you had this?
Across all
the same
podcasts.
people. Because if you do love your comedy podcasts, you do get to know them all quite well.
Yeah.
But then they're all the people you know. So when
You want to hear more from them?
Yeah, but like when you're asking people, you're like, well, I know them because we work together. So, but then people tweet, oh, Cariad's on another podcast. Sorry, Kobe, that might happen.
That's what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
Edith, can you tell us about your podcast and your broadcasting history?
Just quickly though, I've got a necklace around my neck that's got my granddad in it. It's his ashes.
Edith, do you want to come on the podcast?
I'd love to.
Amazing.
When people go, oh, we like a necklace,
That's
and I say to them, oh, it's my granddad. It's his ashes, and they kind of sort of go, okay, and then sort of just leave. It's find it really weird that I have this around my neck, but
I would be
I love
staying there to find out more. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I have him with me all the time.
That's so nice.
We made a connection.
Because my mum gave me that, and I treasure it.
Yeah.
Anyway, my podcast.
Yeah, sorry.
It's called Soundtracking with Edith Bowman, and I speak to people in the film and TV world about their relationship with music, both in terms of professionally and how they craft it into their work, but also personally as well. And we've had directors, producers, writers, composers, music supervisors, actors on there. So it's quite nice that, you know, a lot of podcasts traditionally used to come out of being a radio show that then went on to a podcast, and the goalposts were always very slim with that, because if it didn't fit with the criteria of the radio show, then you couldn't have them as a guest. And that's one of the things that I love about being the boss of my podcast, is that I can decide who I have on.
It's so nice, isn't it?
It's so nice. So I can have Sarah Bridge, who's a new, exciting music supervisor, to come on and tell us more about the role of a music supervisor.
I always thought you'd be an excellent music supervisor, being a huge fan of film and also radio DJ.
Yeah, I am. But I mean, this is the dream for me, just getting to talk about both, you know, sort of just, I'm so nosy that I just love finding out more stuff about music and film, and why you chose that track, or why you only put a tiny wee bit of score in there, and all that kind of thing. And
because I like how you, like with the Daniel Pemberton one, because it came to him after Into the Spider-Verse came out, and hearing his process was amazing.
He's
to see
amazing.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
He's like a mad wizard.
Yeah.
You go. I was lucky enough to go to his flat stroke studio, which is like if in Friends they'd had a character who was a composer,
Ross?
It would have been Daniel's house, because it was like this kind of really cool sort of lofty flat down near London Bridge, that half of it, if you put a line down the middle, is his living quarters, and the other half is like this, but there's just so much crap everywhere that it's just this kind of sort of pit of inspiration, I imagine. But yeah.
So we're talking today, Cariad, about the film you chose, which is Don't Think Twice.
Don't Think Twice.
So can you give us a...
Not to be mistaken by the Celine Dion song, Baby Think Twice.
For the sake of our love. I was singing that the other day, and my husband said, what's that? He'd never heard it.
What?
I know. And I sang the whole... I was like, you know...
Did you put the voice on as
you
well?
know,
Baby Think Twice.
For the sake of our love. And I was like, think twice. baby, think twice. Yeah, and he had never. Anyway, no, don't mistake it with that. Well, do, but be confused.
So, can you tell us why you chose it and a 2-minute synopsis?
Oh, 2 minutes was it? So, Don't Think Twice is written and directed by Mike Birbiglia, which you have to say like that, Birbiglia. And it's about an improv comedy troupe in New York and the sort of trials and tribulations of their relationships and what happens when people move away from working together and being together and getting famous and not getting famous and being in the entertainment industry. And essentially, it's about friendship, I would say. But I chose it because I am an improviser. I'm in a show called Ostentatious. We do improvised Jane Austen every Monday at the Fortune Theatre. And
you can say it loud.
Every Monday at the Fortune Theatre in London's West End. And I've been doing improv for over 10 years. It's where I started. So this film for improvisers is very special because it's a bit like podcasting improv. It's a little bit niche. Some people have heard of it. It's getting a bit more popular, but it's still quite a small world. So when the community found out he was doing this film, it was huge. And they had a screening in London and the London improv community bought up most of the tickets. So we all went to watch it, which was like, it was really special. So when I did see it first in the cinema, it was kind of a very special experience. So that's why I chose it, because it's kind of like, as if there was a cool podcasting movie, we would probably all want to go and watch it.
Absolutely. So how close is this to your experiences?
Not close. Okay. Sadly not. So it is definitely, obviously it's very New York, and the American scene and the English scene are completely different. So in America, and they kind of spoof it on the film, they call it Weekending, but obviously it's meant to be Saturday Night Live. So in America, you have improv theatres in most big cities, obviously Chicago, New York, LA and San Francisco.
Second City and UCB, isn't it?
Yeah, they have... Second City is the oldest one. Then you have IO. UCB is still like the new kid on the block. Like they're improv schools that have brought you people like Steve Carell, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Will Ferrell. You know, like any big American comedian has done improv, and a lot of them start in improv and then they tour the country doing improv shows. They do cruise ships doing improv shows. They then go to LA. They try and get on Saturday Night Live, or they do the Groundlings, which is another school. And you know, Kristen Wiig came through that as well. Like it's a very clear train, and we don't have that. We don't have a Saturday Night Live. We don't have that kind of comedy industry. The only comparison I would say is like we have people gigging and then they might go to Edinburgh and they might get a Radio 4 show, or they might get a sitcom, but there's no improv like
It's a shame, isn't it?
It is a shame. And I've spent, over 10 years with producers being like, sorry, what? You do what? Improv. Oh, right. Like, whose line? Yeah, I used to watch that. So we have, even though our scene started exactly the same time. And that's the one, and it's the one problem I have with this film, is it makes out that they invented it, which is not true. It's not true, but what's a classic American move to be like,
it's mine.
Yeah, Del Close and Viola Spolin. Like the introduction was like, in the 1950s, we made it up. It's like, you didn't. Like the exact same thing was happening here with Keith Johnston, although he then moved to Canada. And there's a lot of improv history, guys. So that's the one thing. It's obviously very focused on the New York scene. So in our scene, if you were in an improv group trying to get on telly, why? What are you doing? It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. So it's quite nice to watch it in the American version. It really does mean they do go to the improv shows and pick people out to go on Saturday audition for Saturday Night Live.
I know it's a huge thing, isn't it?
It's huge.
If you watch this, like Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, you'll often have a few of the guys who've gone on to SNL, and the Will Ferrell one was a good one, asking him about his audition process and everything like that.
And so many auditioned and didn't get onto SNL. So there's ones like Steve Carell. I had a good podcast with him. I think it was Awards Chatter, talking about working so close to all the SNL people, but never getting on. And he was I know, like never getting the audition, or just he was working with Dana Carvey, and they were doing the Dana Carvey show, and he just knew everyone on SNL, but he never got asked. And so even in there, it's not like guaranteed that you get onto SNL. It's very few people that get. Obviously, there's not that many spaces. And I know people from the American scene who, like Miles in the film, had auditions and didn't get it. And literally all of their troupe got it. Like it's quite if you get to a certain point in improv, someone in your gang is going.
Because that was one of the things I found really, it was almost cringeworthy at some points in this film. It's difficult to watch when you see people climbing and people struggling or feeling that they're not succeeding just because they've had the audition and not.
And how they cope with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's I would say if you are a performer in any way, you can deeply relate to it. So I don't find it as cringeworthy because I'm like, yep, been there, I've been that, I've been Miles and I've been Jack, I've been Sam. Like, I've not gone to the audition because I've been too scared. I've gone and got the job and had everyone pissed off with me. Like, you'll always be at one of those positions. So I think that's why I love it so much.
But in the film as well, they used, obviously a lot of the actors are part of that world, but some of them aren't as well, aren't they? So they didn't solely use people who were from that world. Like Gillian she'd never done improv before, had she, and stuff. And I found that quite interesting.
Watching it again, Can
you tell?
No, not at all. Watching it again, I suddenly realised, because Mike obviously comes from improv and must have had a troupe, and I was like, there's someone watching this going, he didn't even fucking cast me, he just got Gillian to play me. I was like, there must be someone who's supposed to be those people and they're not in it. Like, maybe they don't want to, they've gone into writing, but I was like, or they weren't famous enough. Because obviously...
or maybe they're too famous now.
Or maybe they're too famous.
He wants to sell the film as part of...
Yeah.
I guess you've got to think about that, haven't you?
Because, Gillian Jacobs is...
Gillian. Is it Gillian, is it?
And has been in Community and is a massive comedy actor. So I thought there must be a girl out there being like, thanks, Mike. That's my fucking character.
Wow.
So what about the rest of the guys? Because I love... the only people I don't know are... the chap who wears glasses.
So that's Chris Gethard, who has an amazing podcast.
Has he?
Oh my God, Chris Gethard, well, he has a phone and anyone can ring him. He just gives the number, tells you when he's going to pick up by this phone, and then he just has a phone call with a completely random stranger. I can't remember what it's called, but it's so intense.
We'll find it and link to the notes.
Yeah, it's so... That's and great. There's a really good episode where someone rings him and they're quite young and they're like, I'm doing improv and I really don't know what to do. Like, I don't know if I should give it up. And he just talks them through like being a performer and what it means and how hard it is for an hour. So Chris is the one with glasses and he's done a lot of comedy stuff. So
Kate McCucci, I know from Hall & Oates. The smaller lady.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't know him.
Oh, her.
Yeah,
because she's got. She used to have a show. It was on Netflix called Hall & Oates.
Oh.
So they're like the female version of Flight of the Conchords. And it's it's amazing. So if you can find out, because obviously it's this play on Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
Hall & Oates.
Hall & Oates, yeah.
It's not Hall & Oates.
I can go for that.
I'll find it. Garfunkel & Oates it's called.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I was like, Hall & Oates are the real...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's playing Simon Garfunkel. Yeah, so...
And then
Keegan-Michael
Keegan-Michael Key, obviously.
It looks like The Rock's younger brother. There's a real similarity between those two.
That joke about The Rock was good. When he said Slim Fast Rock, Pebble. I really like that. I think they'd all basically worked in comedy. I mean, even though Gillian Jacobs, I don't think has as much improv background, she has been in Community. So
that was a huge thing.
Which if you haven't seen is such a good comedy show. So yeah, they all come from a like hardcore comedy background, I think, which it helps. But yeah, I'm fascinated by the way they film the improv. Like that for me was watching it, because improv is really hard to film because it's such a live thing, and when you have, ostentatious have a DVD available to buy. And I think it kind of works, but we filmed it like in the theatre. You can very much tell it's a filmed theatre gig, but it's hard the way they've captured those like sort of small, intimate...
It's a guy in Steadicam, wasn't it?
Yeah, that
Steadicam guy.
Yeah. But even like, I was wondering how much of that was scripted and how much was improvised and how much you let them play with it. Because sometimes the punchlines are they feel like improv punchlines, which is a really different thing to a scripted sketch punchline. It's just a different sense of rhythm and humour. Yeah,
well, with the film, obviously, there's a narrative that the film has to tell.
Yeah,
they have to hit points within the narrative of the film that then that improv has got to hit. Yeah, and
so he must have scripted it quite tight. But I feel like because they're all so funny, I was like, you must have let them play around.
I think I would let them play. Helen, what are your thoughts on Don't Think Twice?
I really enjoyed it.
Had you seen it before?
I hadn't. No, I've not even heard of it.
I've not even heard of it before. Yeah,
it's like I said, amongst the improvers, it's a big thing, but it is like not a big hit.
But no, I really enjoyed it, and I kind of got caught up in it, and I didn't really think about which might have been scripted and what was actually improv.
I mean, that's definitely me as an improviser watching it. They're being like, oh, what's that? Would they know that? Yeah, exactly. But watching it again for this, I got really caught up in it, like much more than I think the first time, because the first time I was like, oh, it's not like that here, and oh, that's in. I was being very technical about it. Whereas watching it for this, I was like, I cared so much about Sam and Jack and their relationship, and and
it's a different type of. So it's obviously improv is the theme of the film, as opposed to films that are improvised.
Yes, exactly.
So like all of Christopher Guest's films. Do you know what I mean? So things like
Curb Your Enthusiasm is
Best in Show and things like that.
It's much more structured than anything. It's much more tighter than those Christopher Guest ones where they're so enjoyable, but you're watching a bunch of characters sort of muck around. Whereas he's really trying to tell what it's like to grow up, really. That's what I think he's using improv as a conduit to what happens when you realise you need to grow up. And improv has, and this is true for England and America, you get a lot of people doing it exactly like Miles. Like that cliche of being a man still kind of living in student digs, sleeping with your students. I know that. I'm aware of that. Naming no names.
Thing, when you're watching that in the cinema, you're thinking, "Oh, that's Jeff." That's what
no names, Kobe. If you're listening, Jeff, it's not you.
So we've talked about. I guess we think one problem in modern cinema is the improvisation being let to run wild in the film and kind of overtaking like a scene or going
Anchorman
on
2.
Yeah,
something like that.
See, I adored every second of Anchorman 2 because I loved how much they were mucking around.
Yeah.
But then I had that, again, I went to see it with a bunch of comedians and there was a big group of us. And I think if I'd watched it by myself, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it so much, but we were like, you can see them mucking around. Like, we loved it. But yeah, I appreciate.
What about improv outside of comedy films?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very pro it. I'm very pro it.
What do you mean by that? Can you give me
the
example?
more serious ones?
Yeah, like Blue Valentine.
Oh, right, sure.
With Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling. So much of that was improv.
Wow.
Like the scene where they're in the street and he plays the ukulele and she tap dances. That was all. Michelle had no idea that he was going to have the ukulele and play the song. And that was just so Derek Cianfrance, director, had said to Ryan, can you play any instruments? And he was like, yeah, and then this and that. So
I'm incredibly beautiful. I can probably play.
I don't need to. But yeah, so he played the ukulele and he was like, learn a couple of songs, but don't tell Michelle.
Wow.
And then that kind of thing as well. And then Scorsese kind of, historically, encourages improv. Well, all of it. Like that scene between De Niro and Pesci at the kitchen table in Raging Bull, entirely improvised. Right. The scene in The Departed with Leo and Jack Nicholson where he's accused of being a rat, where he pulls out the gun. Leo had no idea that he had a gun, all that kind of stuff. No idea, all improv. So it's kind of, it's interesting in terms of, you don't really hear it talked about much. I think a lot of people think improv comedy.
Yeah, that's true. Although I guess we have Mike Lee, who was probably, but then his process I know is improvised, but again structured, and people are given information, not given information. Yeah, I think it's thing. I think certain people we allow to do it, but I think it's much more accepted in America. It's much more taught in their sort of drama education and their, especially within comedy. Everybody's done it, whereas here you have comedians and actors that have never really done it and don't know who Del Close is, who for them is like the god of their improv world. So I do think it's much more respected as a technique over there. Whereas here, I think we're such lovers of words and we come from such a background. Our improv background is Keith Johnston starting at the Royal Court, working within theatre, and it became a rehearsal technique. So I think that English brain is very like, it's a wonderful skill and tool, but isn't it wonderful to write it down?
It's a practice almost.
It's a practice, yeah. So I think they seem to have that slightly more relaxed feel for things as well.
Yeah. It just sounds fun.
It's so much fun.
I did an improv weekend.
Did you?
Yeah. With the Spontaneity Shop.
Oh, amazing Spontaneity Shop, who's set up by Deborah Francis-White of the Guilty Feminist fame. Yeah.
I thought, I saw it listed down and thought, yeah, fuck it. I'm going to have a go.
You enjoyed it?
Great.
Oh, of course, yeah.
What did you learn from it? What do you think? What did you take away from it, do you think?
I took away from it to not really worry about what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. So one big thing I have is I think through the words, I almost see them written down on the wall before I say them.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of stops me from saying anything sometimes. So it's just kind of let it flow out, and if you say something wrong, then it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
That's the great thing about it. It's such, and people teach it in corporate spaces and work, office, because that bit at the beginning of this film where they basically say what it is, the idea of finding agreement with people, I think is, you don't need to be an improviser to find that useful. Mm-hmm. Being able to find agreement is fundamentally how we connect as humans and how we survive and how we are not isolated. That's why people, what this film captures really well is how cultish improv is. Once people get into it, they fucking love it. And I used to teach it, and you would see some people they come and do class and they're like, oh, this is fun, and bye. But other people, they get this look in their eye and they come up to you and they're like, what else can I read and see and do? How can I?
And you say, don't think twice.
I don't teach anymore just because of
time.
time and child make that a lot. But I've taught quite a few comedians working now, and I loved it. Like that bit, the scene where she's teaching is again, that's a very classic. That got
first
such
time teacher.
No, that guy who's like, no, you don't have it. It's a fish. Shut up. You're wrong. And then Mike Birbiglia's like, okay. Let's try and agree. Like that's just classic improv 101. When normally what happens is someone's like, oh, welcome to my shop. It's not a shop. You're an idiot. You're surfing. Oh, and then you're like, okay,
guys need to work together.
Yeah.
It's the team thing. I think really kind of came out of this, and it's great to see. After his dad died, I mean, even when they first went to hospital, everyone went together to see his dad. That was super warming. And when they, started to work about, saying thank you about,
thank you about his dying father. That's hilarious. Very funny.
That was, I think, things like that with the parts were super sweet. And Jack not wanting to go back to his super successful comedy gig because he wants to hang out with his friends at the last minute and things like that. So
it was, that really got me. And having Ostentatious has been going for 8 years, and it's like a family.
Yeah.
And I also know very well Showstopper, who do an improvised musical also in the West End, and they're like little families. And if you hung out with us, it's weird. It's weird. Me and Joseph Morpogo, another comedian, we fight like brother and sister. Like it's embarrassing sometimes. I'll speak to him like he's my fuck you. What the hell have you done? Pick up your shit. And then the next minute we just absolutely love. It's utterly family. And I think the thing that improv does is you're constantly playing people's family. So you're on stage being their wife, their sister, their daughter, their strange old neighbor, and your brain starts to think, I am deeply connected to this person because I have pretended to be over and over and over again, and it just bleeds off stage. So that scene where they all go and they're all joking, that was I've been in those situations. Like you are, when you are in an improv group, you are a family, and that's why that scene where Sam just doesn't want them to go is so sad, because you're like, that girl has no family and they have become her family. Like it's
So you guys who haven't don't know much about the improv side of things, and what do you make of it as a film generally?
So I kind of saw it as a film more about friendship and growing apart, and
so it can be translated into any different industry, you reckon?
No, not the industry. The improv thing was the thing that brought them all together, but what kind of kept them together was the relationships that they had with one another. And then it kind of reached a point where they could no longer all be in the same situation, and they had to give out the hard truths. That was kind of like, and you're like, this is never going to be the same again, and you're kind of sad that they're saying goodbye to it as well, because you've really got to know them, and you really care for them, but you know that they have to make these decisions, they have to do these things, or they can't move on. And then it kind of has a nice happy ending as well.
Yeah,
which is
it's
nice,
sweet, isn't it? It's sort of a slice of life film, isn't it? You're just with them for that bit, and then
and life moves on.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a quite nice, if you don't want to be too stressed, it's quite a good film. It's kind of like a chill film.
The solo performance as well that she gives, where she's on her own.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
The last one, and the building's closing as well, so it's all of these things are kind of happening externally to them, but having such a massive impact on their group.
Which is also true, because in New York, UCB, which is the school that Amy Poehler founded with these 3 other guys, and they used to play in like an absolute ex-strip bar shithole for $5, and then the UCB got bigger and bigger, and bits of New York got more, gentrified, and they've had to like move out. I think they're still in the same place, UCB, but they've opened another one. But that idea of like not being able to perform, so you've lost your home, is just very relatable one. I love how much they capture that idea that you are friends with a group of people for a time in your life, but you don't always know that's what's happening until it's gone. I think that's what you don't realise.
You're so in it at the
you're
moment.
So in it. You're just like, and those photos they show of them all having fun and just mucking around, and you're like, oh, none of them realised that was their 20s. They were just living, and suddenly they've hit that point where it's like, oh, it's finished.
Yeah, that's what I really took from it, was that kind of thing from, because being someone who's kind of moved about in life, so coming from a little fishing village, going to university in Edinburgh, and then coming to London and having different pockets of friendships from different places and different things, of that kind of thing, how as people, as we grow and we develop and we change and we become successful, or we take detours or whatever and stuff, those friendships are tested, and and distance can grow between those friendships and stuff, and whether or not they can be pulled back together or not, and reshaped and taken forwards and stuff. And I love that kind of side of it as well.
Yeah, it was so... And I said, second time watching it, I was like, oh God, this is more poignant. I think the first time I was so excited to see anything. Yeah, it's like, it was my world. I was like, oh my God, I've been there. But the poignancy. And I thought the relationship between Sam and Jack was dealt with really well, because I loved that it wasn't like that scene where she's doing it on her own and then Jack's like, I'm not going to leave you. And she's like, it's already over. Obviously no spoilers because you've seen it. But I really loved that... they didn't make him the arsehole. They didn't make it as simple as like, oh, he's now famous, he doesn't want to be with her. And I thought it was such a nice thing that it was like he was still in a way trying to hang on to the past and take her with him when she didn't want to go. Yeah. She just didn't want it.
And that's great that she was like, actually, I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I'm happy here.
I like that as a female character. That was the way they took it as well.
Yeah. It was really, I thought that as well, as a female, sort of romantic lead, essentially, that she was actually she was in control. She was in control. And I thought it was so interesting because I've met comedians, or people like that who are so driven and want that big thing so much they can't understand why anyone else wouldn't. That idea of like, but why wouldn't you want to be on the biggest on Saturday Night Live? That's what we're all here for. And that you could see that Sam that's not what she was ever in the group for. Like it was friendship and family. And
we hear people, comedians talking about The Office. Like Americans talking about, well, why are there only like 12 episodes plus extras? Two other episodes. They don't understand that maybe that's what Ricky wanted to do, and that's the story he wanted to tell. Yeah. And they're like, with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, we're on to the 10th season with 12 episodes per season. They're like just churning it out as much as they can do. But it's a different mindset, it's different people. But we have to go on to the scores now, guys, I think.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Girl, you have got to try this Laneige lip mask. Trust me, my lips needed that love. Love these vanilla vibes from Kayali. That top note is just so smooth. Smooth and stunning. That's what you get with this K18 hair mask.
Those brands everybody's talking about, they're at Sephora. Discover the hype with the hottest names in beauty, including Laneige, Kayali, K18, and Rare Beauty. Only at Sephora.
Welcome to the Spreadsheet of Dreams. So our scoring system is all out of 5.
Yep.
You can go to decimal places if you wish.
Oh, blimey.
Oh, God.
And
fractions.
Don't confuse the spreadsheet. We'll start with you, Cariad, with the recommendability out of 5. So how much you'd recommend this?
I would recommend it. I think you just have to be in the right mood and have to accept that it's just a kind of nice light film. It's not gonna change your world, but it would definitely entertain you. So I'd go 4.9. Just with a small caveat that it's not like, it might not be your thing if it's because it's quite light, isn't it?
Yeah.
So somebody might be like, why did she recommend this to me? Like, this is not the most. If you're super busy, maybe watch another film. If you've never seen any films, I don't want this to be your first thing I recommend to you.
Edith.
I'm going to go with 3.5.
Why have you given 3.5? Because
I liked it, but it is quite niche.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that you almost have to not put because I got the friendship thing from it rather than the kind of, but now from talking about it, I kind of want to watch it again to focus more on it just being that, that world that it's kind of talking about. But I enjoyed it. I didn't kind of want to turn it off.
Yeah.
I think people will find it a really fun, light, insightful kind of introduction to that world if you don't know it as well. Yeah. And a really nice kind of reflection on friendship as well, I think.
Yeah.
Helen?
I'm going to go for a 4. I actually really enjoyed this more than I was kind of thinking. I was like, oh, improv comedy.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. And yeah, the more I kind of got to know these characters, I just really enjoyed that time that I spent with them. And for me, the improv was sort of the outer bit, and I was just really enjoying their relationship and all of like the little journey that they all go on throughout the whole thing. And bonus Ben Stiller in there as well. I do like to see Ben Stiller in a film, so that kind of bumped it up a little bit. But yeah, if anyone said
that would
to
have
me,
been 3.8 without Ben Stiller.
Probably, yeah. If anyone was to say to me, should I watch Don't Think Twice, then I would say, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 4.5. I hadn't heard about the film before.
Bad.
No, I think it's fair. I think it's fair because it is niche.
Yeah.
It is definitely niche.
And I love the whole improv scene. I love how people a lot of comedians in the States particularly feel it's a legitimate career pathways, almost going to UCB and Second City as like college.
Comedy college.
Up to by Adam McKay and
if you hadn't done improv, would you have given it such a high score?
Yeah, because I did
he understood on a different level because he'd done a weekend course.
See?
So now I know
Knows
it.
Yeah,
now
yeah.
I know it.
See, he yes-anded the recommending. Yeah.
And I love, like I said, 4 out of 6 of these people I know really well from different Keegan-Michael, Mike Birbiglia, Kate McCucci, and Gillian Jacobs. I've seen in other different places and just love every single time I see them pop up. So already,
I feel bad for calling her Gillian.
It's only because I love Community
have a nice
so
warm
much.
feeling.
So I know.
Feeling when you're watching
wouldn't.
Yeah. It's like seeing your friends doing stuff in different places. And also on the friendship side of things was the bit that really kind of gelled it together. And to
There's
me,
not many films about friendship in that way as well. Friendship group.
Because I transposed myself and my friends, and I could see like the lady who got the gig as a writer.
Yeah, Lindsay, the character Lindsay. Yeah,
I could see so many of my friends in that who are kind of quiet.
Yeah, and the male and female friends as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's either male friends or female friends. It's never that mix.
Yeah, that mix, which you get in an improv group because you try and have a mixed group. So you end up having we have 4 boys and 4 girls in Ostentatious. So that's why I think it becomes like brothers and sisters. Yeah. It's that thing.
Repeat viewing score.
Well, I have to say, initially, I was worried. Having seen it once, I thought, God, do I really want to watch this again? And watching it twice, I'd say 5 because I really enjoyed it second time.
So how many times do you think you're going to watch it every year kind of thing? Or touch base with the community?
No, but if I watched it again, I definitely would be, if it came on a plane, I'd be very happy.
Sure.
Yeah.
What am I basing the repeat viewing score on?
She's a tough scorer, we know that already.
So, it's if you've seen it more than once, if you've seen it 20 times, then you're going to have a particularly high repeat viewing. And if having watched it this time, you're like, I could definitely watch that again. It would be quite high. But for some films, it's like, I'm not going to go watch this again.
I would watch it again. It's the first time I watched it, and I would probably watch it again, but I'm not sure I'd watch it again after that. Sure. So what would I give that?
That's a fair to middling score, I would have thought.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go with 3.5 again, surely, no?
I think you should. I think
really?
you should.
I'm a 3.5er, that's me for
because it's the first time you watched it, so you can't.
I might surprise you on the small screen score.
Sure.
Hold fire.
Oh, that's true, actually. That's true.
Helen?
I think I'm with Edith on this one, a 3.5. I'm not in a rush to watch it again, but I probably would go back to this because, there's some good jokes in it, and I've just really liked being part of that group for an hour and a half.
I'm going to go 3.5 with you guys as well. I think it's a super easy, light film to watch, and
it's just an hour and a half, folks.
Yes,
that's what I think.
It's a bonus, that.
Really nice, light, like just a nice light lunch.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's one of the things, if I was scrolling through Netflix and was like, I want to put something on, I don't think twice.
Yeah, it's like, I've just put the kids down. It's 8:30. They're finally asleep. An hour and a half. I could be asleep by 10.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Exactly. And it's gentle. So you're not going to be like, oh God, I feel a bit weird now. I've watched that. I can't sleep. You're going to be like, just go to sleep. I've got no problems.
There are some cringy scenes though. My wife was like, she was like trying to peel her skin away at some point.
I'm so used to it with performers. I was like, that's normal behaviour.
Small screen score then, Cariad.
Well, I'd say 5 because it doesn't have any massive effects that you are feeling like, God, I wish that I was watching. I recently watched Roma, which it was so brilliant, but the whole time I was like, God, I think I should be watching this not on my laptop. But this is definitely one of those films you can absolutely watch on a plain screen size, and it would be exactly the same.
Well, we've had Roma in the pod, and that was the exact thing.
No surprises.
Everything's amazing, but I wish I'd seen it on the biggest screen ever.
So beautiful. But
made.
This is not affected by the size of your laptop.
No.
I get 5.
Oh, she's done it. She's broken free.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Classic film,
yeah, it's classic, isn't it? Classic telly one. It'd be fine.
Helen?
Yeah, a 5 from me. Again, this is like one of the really nice things when we do this podcast is we get introduced to these films that we've never heard before, and we're like, it's really good.
Yeah,
we really like it, and it's on Netflix, and we're saying lots of lovely things. So it's there. Go watch it.
Yeah, 5 for myself as well. I think perfect for
good work. Don't think twice.
Perfect for the Netflix arena. Even like iPad on the way, maybe not iPad on the way to work.
iPad maybe, not your phone.
Not phone.
I watched some on my phone and I still enjoyed it.
I watched it on my phone.
Yeah, and it was fine. It was great.
No
guys.
smaller than your phone.
Yeah.
What's smaller than your phone? Apple Watch.
Apple Watch.
Cariad, the engagement score.
Yeah, I have to say, having watched it, I would answer differently having watched it once. I didn't think it would engage me. I was a bit worried. I thought, oh God, am I going to enjoy this second time around? But I would say 5. I ended up not being able to do much else. I thought, I'll put it on in the background, get some work done. I've already seen it. And then I ended up standing over my bed with my laptop, just standing there thinking, I was just going to go and get the washing out, but I want to see what Jack says. So yeah, I'd say 5. It really engaged me the second time.
Edith?
Going with 3.5 again, folks.
You know what you like? Stick to it, Edith.
Yeah.
Helen?
I mean, yeah.
Yes, go.
Now, I was just going to say, kind of for similar reasons for the repeat viewing, really, and my recommendability. Recommendability?
Recommendability.
Yeah. Recommendability.
I think I'm going to go 3.7 because I did sort of get into a little bit of, who's this person where I might have seen them a little bit on the phone.
Who were you looking for?
Ben Stiller.
The other, yes.
Keegan-Michael.
Keegan-Michael.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
from Key and Peele.
Yeah, and then I did end up lining up some of that to watch while I was still
Key and
watching
Peele on YouTube.
Key and Peele is so good.
It's so beautiful, isn't it?
So fucking good, Key and Peele. Yeah, it's actually I quite like because he's so silly in Key and Peele. It's quite nice him playing a very sort of kind of serious, naturalistic character in this.
Well, it's also like with Jordan Peele, how he's made Get Out and Us looks terrifying as well.
I just watched Get Out again yesterday actually because I'm speaking to Jordan on tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
And it's what a brilliant career.
Yeah, I know. The pair of them. It's amazing.
Amazing.
Isn't it? Absolutely amazing.
On the we've talked about Get Out as well on a previous episode. So yeah, do look out for that.
That's a great
It scored super high, I think.
Yeah, that's a repeat viewing. I'd be 10 for that.
That was we'll talk about that
Don't
later.
tell Mike Birbiglia.
It's coming up.
Not only is your film not as successful as Jordan Peele's, we wouldn't recommend it.
Let's go. Yeah, engagement score. I couldn't really pull away from it, so I'm going to give it a 4. Not super engaged all the way through. I was trying to work out who the guy with glasses was, and the character who played Lindsay. And I was trying to do it without IMDbing because I
couldn't resist.
Yeah, that's fair.
We just pulling the app out. 4 for that.
That's good. It's very engaging,
and that gives us an overall score of 4.28, which is steep, which is very good.
Oh, is that good?
Yeah.
Good work.
Out of 5, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely bumped it up and I chose it, so that makes sense. It'd be weird if I was like, it was awful.
No, we have people who pick something and think, Netflix told us to, and then they bring it in here.
And they're like, we didn't watch this before we picked it.
Oh, no, I was wanted to make sure it wasn't really awful.
So we always ask people before we go to the recording, we reach out to guys on Twitter and put a little shout out saying, hey, we're reviewing, in this case, Don't Think Twice, with Cariad from Griefcast and Edith from Soundtracking UK. These are your Twitter handles. Have you seen it? Tell us your thoughts for an on-air shout out on Flixwatcher. And we got a decent response for this. Because I hadn't heard of the film before, I didn't think anyone was going to respond. So we've got
guys, it was quite a big cult hit when it came out. Some people like improv.
So, Karen, can you lead us out with the reviews, the comments from Twitter?
I can. It's quite the handle. Scheitgeist said, interesting premise and cast, well observed, but doesn't leave a lasting impression. 2 theatre emojis. Well, Scheitgeist, I disagree with you. It did leave a lasting impression.
Scheitgeist is a great handle.
Edith?
This is from Top Film Tip. It says, improv troops tight-knit community phrase. See what they did there? When one member is picked up for TV stardom, insightful character-led creatives dramedy. # don't think twice. Interesting if unfocused look at world of performance artists. Glad to have seen, but don't feel the need to rewatch. 3 out of 5.
Helen?
So this is from I Want You to Watch This, in caps. We did this one a while back. Great movie on relationships and knowing when it's time to move on or stay where you are and let someone else move on. And then they go, I'd give this one 5 stars.
Yeah. Karen, do you want to take the last one?
This is from The Mafia Minute. We both watched this for at Amanda Pick Show a couple of years ago and really liked it. The portrayal of the world of improv ended up being accurate to Stephen's experience too. 5 emoji stars with little flashes around them.
Who's Stephen?
I don't know. Yeah,
Mafia Minute. Can you tell us who Stephen is? And
I guess he's an improviser as well.
Yeah.
Is what I would assume. But it's funny because I honestly wouldn't have thought watching it again I'd enjoyed it so much, and I was very surprised about how much I enjoyed it watching it again. But then I haven't seen a film really for about 2 years because I have a child, so I've only just started watching them again. So I do worry that my standards are really low.
No, I think you're all right with this.
Yeah,
I think
okay,
generally,
okay, good.
The mood in the room is...
Yeah, you're right. You liked
good.
it.
Yeah.
It's really
Shy
fun.
Gas and Top Film Tip are a bit lukewarm. But,
But I think if they watched it again, they might disagree. That's what I think. It's a genuinely lovely film.
It's interesting those guys focused on the premise of the film rather than the kind of friendships, where I think that's where it kind of elevates it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, can you guys sign off and tell us where everyone can find you online?
You can find me at the Griefcast on Twitter or at Cariad Lloyd on Instagram, and you can download the Griefcast from where you get your pods.
Fantastic.
We're at Soundtracking UK on Twitter and Instagram, and online at the website edithbowman.com. So, and your usual downloadable forums and not forums, platforms,
iTunes and the like.
All that, yes.
And do definitely visit you. Both of you guys have live shows happening of different formats, so go and visit you guys. And if you're in London, buy tickets.
Thanks, please. Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much for listening, guys. Please don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us your 5-star review and do follow us on social media. We are at Flixwatcher Pod on Twitter.
Special thanks to our awesome editor, Brendan Russell, for making this episode sound so sweet. And thanks to the mighty people for the tunes you can hear.